It was a typical Friday evening at a cozy, upscale restaurant in downtown Washington, D.C. The evening crowd filled the air with laughter and chatter, the clinking of silverware, and the hum of polite conversation. Everything was in place for another busy night, as patrons eagerly enjoyed their meals, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. At the heart of the restaurant stood Alex, the restaurant manager, a man in his mid-30s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. He had worked his way up from a server to the position he held today, and he was proud of the restaurant's reputation for quality and customer service. But Alex's journey hadn't been easy. He'd struggled with personal challenges, worked long nights, and faced criticism along the way. Yet, one thing Alex always held dear was his sense of fairness. He believed in treating everyone equally, no matter who they were, and he ran the restaurant with that principle in mind. On this particular evening, as the restaurant's lights flickered and the doors swung open, a familiar face walked in. It was Barron Trump, the son of the former president, wearing a MAGA hat, a symbol of a political movement that had caused division across the country. Barron was here, sitting down at a corner table, quietly glancing at the menu. A low murmur spread throughout the room as patrons recognized him. Alex didn't think much of it at first. The restaurant welcomed all kinds of guests, celebrities, and political figures alike. The hat, however, caught his attention. As the manager, he knew that many people had strong opinions about the politics associated with it. Some found it inspiring, while others saw it as a symbol of division. But Alex also knew that politics should not interfere with the dignity of his establishment. The restaurant's reputation had always been about fostering an environment of respect and civility. When he saw a group of patrons whispering and glaring at Barron's table, his mind started to race. They were uncomfortable, no, they were visibly angry. His instincts told him to step in before the situation escalated. He approached Barron's table, trying to be calm but firm. "Sir, I'm afraid you'll need to remove the hat or leave the restaurant," Alex said, his voice steady but undeniably firm. Barron looked up at him with a blank expression, his calm demeanor not betraying any sign of surprise. "I'm sorry," Barron said, his voice almost apologetic, "but this is a part of who I am. It's just a hat." Alex's heart started to race. He had never dealt with such a situation before. The weight of what he had just said started to settle in. He had asked a customer, one of the most recognizable young men in America, to remove something as simple as a hat. But in that moment, the consequences of his decision were far from simple. The restaurant could lose business, or worse, the situation could spiral into a public relations nightmare. "You're disturbing the other guests," Alex added, trying to justify his actions. "We need to maintain a certain atmosphere here." Barron, taken aback but composed, stood up slowly and placed the hat on the table. His face showed no anger, only resignation. "I understand," he said, and walked out of the restaurant without a word. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, frozen in the moment. The clinking of silverware had stopped, and everyone's eyes were now on Alex. As soon as Barron exited, the restaurant filled with a chorus of murmurs, but not the kind of praise Alex had hoped for. Instead, people started to look at him differently, some in disbelief, others in anger. His heart sank as he heard the word slip from one of the guests' lips. "I can't believe you kicked him out." A heavy silence followed, the weight of judgment sitting like a rock on his shoulders. Alex retreated to his office at the back of the restaurant, the stress of the evening weighing heavily on him. He closed the door, sank into his chair, and exhaled deeply. He had made the decision in the heat of the moment, thinking he was doing the right thing, but now doubt gnawed at him. But it wasn't just the uncertainty gnawing at him, it was the aftermath. The restaurant's phone began ringing non-stop. News outlets picked up the story. Social media erupted with mixed reactions. Some praised Alex for standing up for what he believed was a peaceful environment, while others condemned him for what they saw as unnecessary censorship. It wasn't long before Alex's personal phone began to buzz as well. A number he didn't recognize flashed on the screen. "Hello." Alex answered, his voice hoarse. "Is this Alex?" A calm, composed voice replied. "Yes," Alex responded, a little taken aback. "Who is this?" "This is Barron Trump. I'd like to talk to you." Alex's stomach dropped. The voice on the other end of the phone was not what he expected. There was no anger, no bitterness. Just calmness. After a brief, awkward pause, Alex agreed to meet Barron the following day at a local coffee shop. The next afternoon, Alex sat nervously at a small corner table, his mind racing with anticipation. Barron walked in, dressed casually in a hoodie, his MAGA hat nowhere in sight. He sat down across from Alex, his expression unreadable. "I don't hold grudges," Barron said quietly, breaking the silence. "What you did. I understand it. But I want you to understand something too. You thought you were protecting your restaurant, but you didn't know me. I'm not the problem. It's the environment around me that makes things difficult." Alex felt a pang of guilt. He had acted based on assumptions, without knowing Barron's true character. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," Alex said, the weight of his actions pressing down on him. "I was just trying to keep the peace." "I get it," Barron replied. "But sometimes peace isn't about avoiding conflict, it's about finding understanding. There's more to people than their hats, their labels, or their politics." They sat there in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation sinking in. "What do you want me to do?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Simple," Barron said, leaning forward. "I want you to help me show people that kindness can bridge divides. Use your position to create spaces where people can actually listen to each other, regardless of where they stand." It was an unexpected request, but it struck a chord with Alex. Here he was, sitting across from a young man who had experienced public scrutiny and division, yet remained unbowed by the world around him. The next day, Alex took the bold step to offer Barron a seat at the restaurant again, on his terms. He invited Barron back, but this time with a twist. He arranged for a public conversation to take place in the restaurant, a panel discussion about civility in politics and bridging societal gaps, with Barron as a special guest. The event was planned as a way to engage patrons in a respectful dialogue about division, but it quickly turned into something much larger, a movement. People from all walks of life came together, eager to listen, to understand, and to share their experiences. What had begun as a potentially polarizing situation blossomed into a powerful moment of connection. The night of the event, the atmosphere in the restaurant was different. It wasn't about politics, opinions, or labels anymore. It was about finding common ground, respecting each other's humanity, and learning to listen. As Barron spoke, he wasn't just sharing his thoughts on politics, he was sharing his personal experiences, his struggles, and his desire for change. For Alex, the evening was transformative. He realized that sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that lead to the most growth. By choosing kindness and listening rather than judgment, he had created a space where people could find common ground, even in the midst of conflict. The event was a success. The story of the restaurant manager and Barron Trump spread across social media, not for the controversy, but for the act of compassion that followed. Alex had learned that in the most divisive times, it is the smallest acts of understanding that can make the biggest impact. And so, the restaurant thrived, not just in business, but in its newfound purpose, to be a place where unity could be found in the most unlikely of circumstances. Moral of the story. In a world that often feels divided, acts of kindness and understanding can heal the wounds that separate us. It's not the labels we wear or the symbols we hold that define us, but the compassion we offer to those around us.